Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 4th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Mary. How you doing, Mary?
Happy 4th, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to come listen to this podcast. I promise we've got some good things to talk about, so I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Yes, we are here to talk about everything that happened on the live feeds yesterday. And it's really, by yesterday, I mostly mean last night.
Yeah.
Because nothing really happened during the day.
Not really. I mean, haircuts. Those turned out great.
Haircuts, yes. The bangs are gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It could be worse, but now, see, personally, I think if you're going to take time to vacuum the whole house, maybe wait till after the haircuts are done, but they didn't think like that, so.
Well, not everyone is as smart as you, Mary.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's okay. They spent a lot of time cutting all the old hair out of the vacuum cleaner, so maybe I just didn't want to mess with that at all.
Yeah. Look, they enjoy their current relationship with hair. They don't want to form a new relationship with hair by battling a big hair monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, of course, we end up at the eviction episode, the live show, where Ovie is evicted by a unanimous vote. And then there was like some sort of like camp announcement sound, like
it was like the trumpeting, like do. I thought that was great, and of course everyone thought that meant a power had been played.
Well, like at first they were just like ignoring it. They just continued to do what they were doing until finally the voice came on.
Yeah. Always ignore sounds in the Big Brother house. They probably don't mean anything. I would have loved for Ovie to actually try and open the door. I don't know if it would have been locked or if David would have just been standing there on the other side like, oh, shoot.
Well, I mean, like, they probably were just like, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be happening, and I don't want to ruin the show, so I'm just going to keep going until I'm told otherwise.
Yeah, that would be my biggest flaw in the show, is just anytime anything happens, just completely breaking whatever I was doing.
Yeah, and then so that everyone get back to the living room, and Ovie looks at the killer. Everyone?
Like me too.
And then Ovie goes and sits down, and Julie's like, please put your microphone back on, Ovie. And then she doesn't hear him when he says, oh, it's still there, Julie. I just took my pins off. And,
yeah.
And would you like me to put my pins back on? And Julie's like, yeah, Ovie, it's a live show. We need your microphone on during a live show, Ovie. And he's like, okay, I'll put my pins back on. I'm sorry, Julie.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm guessing he was taking the pin off to give it to someone as like a goodbye present, but Julie just missing that and berating him was pretty funny.
And so of course Ovie is probably like, okay, what kind of puzzle am I gonna have to complete here? But of course they're told that this is the new twist. It's Camp Comeback, which is essentially Extinction Island, except without a separate island, and hopefully not during the second half of the game, because Ovie and also David, who comes running in, and everyone is so fake happy to see him. They're both going to be living upstairs in the Camp Comeback room.
Yeah, on my Riverdale podcast, we do a segment where we talk about the cringiest thing to happen in the week, and just the fake excitement of when anyone is not actually voted out is the worst part about Big Brother. Like, just skip that. I would just like one season where everyone can just be honest and say, oh, shoot, guess that was pointless. Guess my whole HOH was terrible.
But Mary,
happened.
Christy manifested this. She really wanted, she felt so bad for Ovie talking about needing to get him out, and if he came back in that she would expose his power and send him right back out the door. She manifested that situation where he's still in the house and might come back into the game because she wanted it to happen, Mary.
Yeah, they all wanted it to happen so much that they all collectively voted him out 12-0.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works, right? When you really want to keep someone, it's like reverse, right? It's like golf rules.
Yeah.
You have 0 votes to stay. So when you get a perfect score, it's like when you get all of the questions wrong on a test, it's just as hard as getting them right.
It's funny you mentioned golf rules because there's been speculation about how is the person going to return.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because Julie said they have to work on their social game while they're gone, a lot of people have been speculating that maybe the House is going to vote for somebody to return. And
Well, if you mean by a lot of people, you mean Christy. Christy is really, really, really hoping this is the case.
well, Christy and a lot of the audience as well.
Yeah.
And I personally think that would be a terrible idea because, you know, maybe it kind of worked in Big Brother 3 in the particular time that it was taking place. But in a modern day season, in this season, if the house guests have to vote one of them back in, then they're just going to vote in whoever's best for the majority alliance. And it's just going to be yet another thing that helps out the majority alliance. Let's say Jack somehow leaves next week. We really going to have to let the house just vote him right back in because he's still such a huge target. It would be very unfortunate. So my thought was, what if they did majority vote keeps people out? It's golf rules. The person with the least amount of votes comes back in.
That would actually be pretty good.
But then I thought that's kind of unfair to the people who are campaigning to get votes.
I mean, they bring this up a lot during the day. David talks about it, or during the evening. David mentions it a lot too. Like, why would we be staying in the house if not for some kind of social reason to get us back in? And Ovie's just like, yeah, I think it's just so that when we get back in the game, whoever it is not completely lost and immediately kicked back out because they actually had a chance to stay in the house and keep bonds. I was going over it and trying to think because in Survivor, I would way prefer someone to get back in the game based on the people who are still in there having a say or having a vote or something like that. And I don't know what it is about my psychology of watching Big Brother. Maybe it's just the rooting for the underdog that I really want it to be in their hands. I'm not sure what that says about me.
I don't know.
I don't want the house to vote them back in because that's probably the best way to get whoever's voted out fourth back in. However, I'm going to be saying a very different tune if it's like Cliff or Nicole or Tommy or somebody who's voted out and wants to be voted back in.
Yeah. So you know, we'll see. We'll find out eventually, I'm sure. So that was the episode. Of course, then we saw the HOH competition take place. Nick was the first person out of the competition. He was pretty upset about that, or at least really talked up how upset he was about that. And then it came down to Jessica and Jack. Or Jack and Jessica. And in that moment, I was like, Jessica, why isn't your name Jill? It comes down to, okay. So Jack and Jessica, final two in this competition. And then, of course, we see Jack ultimately win it. So Jack is our new HOH. And I just feel like this is kind of a continuation of what I was talking about yesterday. Jack ruins everything.
Yeah, I have a great quote from Jack early on in the day when he's talking to, I think it's Sam, and he says, you know, this week, the reason everything is going so crazy is just because I'm gaming too hard. I'm just gaming too hard. And I can't wait for next week after the Ovie eviction when I can take a step back and things will just be chill and I'm not going to try as hard.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. Jack, he's a man of two worlds. A world where he hates one-uppers, he wants to, play because he's a good guy and he's full of integrity, and then a world of truth. Two worlds.
I would have been happy with anyone but Jack winning HOH, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, to be fair, like, I don't claim to be unbiased, but Jack is extremely entertaining on this show just for, I think it was Rob who was saying it last night, the element of craziness that he throws in here. And just, he's very much like Devin, just throws everything at the wall. It cannot help but be so out front that it's just really unsustainable.
Yeah. I mean,
it was entertaining, provided a lot of entertaining feeds last night.
He threw 2 house meetings in one night. After one night of being HOH, he held a house meeting and then held a house meeting about the first house meeting where he was just, I just want to make sure everyone was on board with that first house meeting, and I just want everyone to sign their consent form essentially about the first house meeting to make sure that everyone's on board with all the house meetings, and our thesis is here.
Yeah, we can get into it. I mean, I slowly watched the first house meeting twice so that I could word for word write down Jack's speech.
Great.
Because it was my favorite part.
Okay, so let's get into this. So Jack is our HOH. Lots of stuff going to be happening. This is, this twist is going to make my life more difficult for the next 2 weeks. Because it usually gets easier as time goes on to update the live feeds, but it's not often you see a full 16 people in the house. And that's going to be just the case here for the next 2 weeks. So
the one good thing about evictions is that I can stop having to follow everyone and listen to everyone talk and take notes on them, and it makes it easier. And there were going to be only 14 people in the house.
Yeah. So thank you, Big Brother. So lots of stuff happening here. Jackson is going to talk to David. He's going to apologize for banishing him. Says, I thought you were going to come back. Because I was setting it up for you to come back.
Yeah, man. Dude, I threw you out there. You were supposed to get one of them out.
Yeah. I passed you the ball, man. You dropped it. That's what it is.
Yeah, and David's response to that is just, hey, what can I say, man? It was dark in there. Which was great. I really like David's attitude, though, coming back in.
You're the only one from the house.
Okay, but you know what? I am probably not the only one on the outside of the house.
Yes.
But he really looks at it as like, I think he's had 2 weeks to sit there and go, oh my gosh, I went into this challenge against 3 people that I should have beaten, just looking at it as, a physical competition. The odds were completely in my favor, and I lost. So that tells me I cannot count my chickens. Like, I cannot assume anything. Anything can happen. I don't even know. People ask him a couple times, well, who do you want to be put up? Because you might have to battle against them. And he just says, you know what? Doesn't matter. I could lose to anyone. So whatever. And I think that that's good that he's looking at it that way and not in a, yeah, I'm the best, I can clearly beat these people again or something.
Yes, I do think David has a great attitude about it, which of course means that everybody in the house thinks that he has a terrible attitude about it.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me, but I think he's also hiding a little bit of how much he understands the game, or at least his perspective on people, to the other house guests. He's definitely playing up the, hey, I don't even know what's going on. Do we stay up late? What time do we go to bed? Do we have rules? Who sweeps the floor? Guess it's going to be me. Yeah, 1 hour after I'm in the house.
And they do definitely see through that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I like that he's trying, though. It's good to see that instead of the image that they're all painting on him, which I think is a little bit inaccurate. David, David to Jackson's face is, it's all good, dude. It's all fine. Don't worry about it. Jack and Jackson are going to talk about nominations eventually. That Jack is, and I talked about this last night on the podcast, that Jack said that he wants to nominate Jess and Chemi, but actually, it'd be kind of cool to backdoor Nick, right? Like this guy. What if we backdoored Nick? And Jackson immediately is like, no, dude. Camp comeback. Remember? He's gonna stay here. He's gonna run his mouth all week. He's gonna come back into the game. We can't do that. We can't do that until camp comeback is over. We have to stick to Grateful now more than ever. Yeah, which is true. And I know you guys mentioned it last night that the people this benefits the most are the people who got in the majority alliance right away, because it's time to glom onto each other and just say, all right, you know what? There's a twist. Twists. Unlike what Big Brother thinks, twists tend to unify the big alliances more than they break them up. So if you're all for throwing chaos in there, this is at least not the type of twist to do that.
Yes, I completely agree. I feel like Big Brother has a majority alliance problem. And Survivor had that too, where there were lots of pagongings that were going on, and Survivor threw more twists in, and I think that those twists did actually kind of help Survivor, but it's the opposite with Big Brother. Some of those twists help Survivor. Let's not talk about that. But with Big Brother, the natural format is what prevents the majority alliances from succeeding. That's why you never really saw one big majority alliance dominating any season until we started introducing a large amount of twists into the game. Once we get into even starting to get into something like Big Brother 15 with the MVP twist, while that was going, there was a large majority alliance that dominated. Once it stopped, things started getting interesting. Big Brother 16, Battle of the Block, 17, while Battle of the Block was happening. Luckily, we had Vanessa, but even then, things were much more stable while it was still going. It goes on and on. And this is just the latest in that line of things.
The fundamental difference between the two shows is that the twists that Big Brother throw in tend to be just chaotic. Oh, here's a person coming back in. Here's someone that you know is going to have a random power, like the MVP twist or something. And that causes people to be more afraid and want to cling together and stick to what they know.
Mm-hmm.
With Survivor, their twists had to do with splitting people up and shuffling people around a lot so that you couldn't just remain with that same group of people. When you're all living in a house, that doesn't really work. And I wonder if there's a way where Big Brother could have a type of twist that said, for these next, instead of doing pairs that they do a lot of times, we're splitting the house in half completely randomly. The house is now in half, and one group is going to win safety this week, or you have to stay in a room with these people for 24 hours or something to really, really physically split people apart and make them not able to work together.
Well, I actually have a really good idea for how to make people, change allegiances and sort of get closer to other people, really like split people up. It's so what happens is if one person ends up winning the power to nominate two people in the house, then that will cause a lot of people to gravitate toward that one person. And so if that one person isn't in the majority alliance, then things will often shift, right? So what will happen is the whole house will be very shifty. One single alliance can't dominate because any one person can win power. I personally think this is a genius idea. I'm not sure what the producer of Big Brother might think about it though.
See what you did there. No twist is the best twist.
Or just stick with what worked. It was your original idea for the twists, guys. It was the twist on Survivor that made Big Brother what it is.
Oh well.
All right. So Jack can't do it. He can't do anything fancy here. Maybe he will, but he's heavily incentivized not to. So they say we gotta stick to Grateful. That's what we gotta do until this whole thing is over. We gotta stick to the group. Jack is, of course, as I mentioned, he's going to call a house meeting. This is at the behest of Christy, who kind of inspired him, told him that they should do this because they had the idea that, why don't we just tell people that they shouldn't talk game with these outcasts, these camp comebackers. They shouldn't be talking. Nobody should be talking game with them. They're out of the game. We don't want to put a target on their. It's really for them. It's for them. We don't want to put a target on their back.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this is that the idea seems to stem from Christy, and it's actually brought up pretty immediately in a room where Ovie also is. And so it's first presented like, we're going to present it, and we're going to say that no one can talk, but it's really more, against David than it is against you, Ovie, because pretty much everyone, especially Jack and Jackson, feel like, oh, we did a great job this whole week of convincing Ovie that we're with him and that we were campaigning for him, and he's definitely going to be with us. And so as of now, it'd be great for him to come back because he's still in our back pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the house meeting is called. They all come together, and Jack he lets the whole house. I think Ovie was not there. He was in the diary room for this house meeting. But he
was for the first half. He shows up near the end.
Okay. You said you wrote down Jack's speech.
Yes.
Do you want to reenact this for us?
I can't do a voice, but here's what we got.
I really want to hear your Jack voice.
Like I have a Jack. Because I'll just jump into Jason Momoa anyway. Yeah, he starts off, and just to paint a picture here, everyone's sitting down, and Jack's doing the thing where he's got like one leg up on the bench, and then he's sort of standing up in his tank top over everyone, just really presenting
casually
a picture
dominant.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not dictating this, but I'm gonna put myself in a position where nobody could talk down to me.
He read Power Poses by that author. I don't know. It's not a real book.
Yes. Yeah. So he starts off. To be honest, I don't even need to talk about this. There's a couple people I really value their opinion in this game, in this household, that I've spoken with, and they'd agree with me that this camp comeback thing, it's different. And we didn't expect it to happen. And then again, we totally did expect it to happen. At least I did. I think between the 4-week period, we'd love to have you guys here. And he's speaking just directly at David, by the way, through all of this. Like, not even looking around. Okay. We'd love to have you guys here. I mean, David, we're so happy to have you back and that you've made it back. And then David's like, yeah, I mean, more than 3 hours is awesome. And I felt bad for him there. Everyone laughs. Ha ha ha. So with that being said, I'm one to truly believe in a common agreeance or ignorance is bliss type of thing. If we all agree to the fact to try and avoid talking about game with the people who've been kicked out of the house. Really, really going gentle here. I know that you're in a position, and it does benefit you guys coming back in the game. It benefits you to not make it seem like you have any alliances built up, or that you've pushed yourself to automatically come in with something on your back, some kind of strategy. You have a fresh, clean slate this way. For any of the 4 guys, you've made it another 4 weeks living in a cruddy situation, and it doesn't put us in a situation where, we're not trying to talk game with any of the campers out there. It's just a suggestion, but it's kind of a strategy that we wish we could express, and the campers, not joining in on the house that way.
Wow.
And I gotta say, I love the idea of presenting this to one person, because Ovie's not even there during this speech. But he's speaking about all 4 people, 2 of which are sitting at this table. But he's acting like, I mean, those 4 arbitrary people who are not anyone here, but those other people. Like, I am kind of surprised no one brings up, oh, but so the people who are like in our alliances now, they're going to be able to make strategy and talk game and have alliances, and then they'll be kicked out. Are they not allowed to anymore? Because I have a strong feeling it's going to be a different tune when, if Jackson gets kicked out.
Jackson's not going to get kicked out, though. Mary, obviously, it's these outcasts that are going to be evicted in the next 2 weeks. They know what's up. They never in a million years could they end up being the ones kicked out. That's just not what happens to majority alliance people. I don't know about you, though, but that speech it took my breath away. I am fully convinced. I don't think we should talk to Ovie or David anymore.
Yeah, and it helps everyone to remain unbiased, because then no one would have any ties to the 4 people. Expect you would, because 2 of those 4 people are still in the game. So I may be the only one who sees this loophole, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. It's it's basically like, how there's 16 of us in a pretty small house, and we're here for 99 days, and we have literally one thing to do, which is play a game. Let's not talk to a certain amount of these people about the game. What else are you going to talk to them about? What do you mean don't talk game with them? Like, that's
well, David's question is, so how much time a day do you guys talk game? Am I supposed to be? And everyone's like, oh, we don't talk. No, not like at all. There's like no game talk, because Christy is also interjecting to this. It's mostly Jack and Christy talking, a little bit of Holly kind of just sort of yesing, agreeing with everything. But Christy jumps in a lot and says, it's just because we're all so kumbaya, and we're all so close, and I think we're close because we don't talk game very much. We just bond, and we're just open and happy, and so you can join in on that stuff. And Jack's like, yeah, I mean, you don't have to abide by this. You can go do your own thing. Like, we all know you're going to come across game talk eventually, and I don't want to think that you can't be a part of it, but like, maybe don't instill it or route it in any way. It's just a suggestion, not a demand. And yes, I really apologize for my complete lack of impersonation. I'm sorry. I'm not Taran or Rob. Can't do that.
It's literally like okay. Here's the thing, Mary. I just feel like it's best for us that we never talk about the planet Earth or anything that exists on the planet Earth. We should only talk about things that don't have anything to do with the planet or anything on it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I have a whole list of things in my notes. I segment out the things that are game talk and are not
Okay.
game talk. So I've got about 3 things on here we could talk about for the rest of this podcast that are not game talk if you want.
Perfect.
Yeah. There's a great moment at the end of this house meeting, actually, where Sam says, "So, did you come here and have to take the pictures by the pool? Because you weren't in those pictures." And David says, "We're not allowed to talk about production." An immediate cut to fish. It was great. It was a really wonderful moment. I love that.
I wonder if David supervised his photoshopping.
Yeah, it was really funny. I loved that. They had good times. Let's see. Well, there's really not a lot left that's not game talk.
We're only allowed to talk about things that weren't game related on this update. So we can I think we can skip to the end of my notes here. Nick and Bella got into a little spat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kat made a funny joke.
Yeah. Debatable.
They got food.
More tension in the love triangle between Holly, Kat, and Jackson.
Oh yeah, love that. Lot of complaining from Jackson about Kat.
David made a joke that Jackson didn't. Oh, sorry. No, that's getting too game related.
Oh shoot. Well, so the good thing about all of this is that Cliff is the savior we need. And he just immediately leaves this meeting and goes talks to Ovie, and Ovie's like, "So wait, we're not allowed to talk game?" And Cliff's like, "I'm gonna talk game to you. We're gonna talk. I'll fill you in. I'll keep you up to date with everything. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it."
Cliff is he's a rebel. He's a rule breaker.
Yeah, I something about this house meeting really showed me which people I can count on to bring me happiness in this game, and it's the ones who continue to talk game with Ovie. And even David, to some extent. So,
yeah.
If anyone's wondering who the underdogs are, we found them.
There we go.
And at least they're aware enough to continue talking game. So I'm okay with it.
Perfect. All right. So, yes, Ovie talked with Cliff. Cliff said that he feels like the next 3 likely targets are Chemi, Kat, and Jess. He's mostly right, I think. I think that's pretty
all 3 of
close.
those names were brought up. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he knows quite yet that Nick is also on the table, but probably won't actually be acted on.
Won't be until after camp comeback is over.
Yeah.
Also, I think they're really going to try hard to make the next 2 be Chemi and Jess. Then they'll get rid of Kat, because then they won't have to deal with her in the house. And then, of course, also, if they have the opportunity, they might try to take the shot at Nick. And Nick will, I think, try to take the shot at Jack. But I think Nick, who would have taken a shot at Jack this week, also will be hindered by camp comeback and also will wait until it's over to take his shot. So it's very likely going to be some order of Chemi, Kat, and Jess, the next 3 evictions.
Yes. Although, with the exception of the fact that these people voted out are still in the house and can blow up your game, which actually is a huge exception. So that's why a lot of these more imposing characters probably won't be voted out soon. There's still a lot of talk about how these people may get back in the game, or who will. And there was a lot of talk about Big Brother 16 and the type of battle back there. And so it's really something that I don't think that you can just count on someone like Jack getting voted out and immediately getting back in necessarily. It's just more of how much damage can he do in the week or 2. Well, in this case, only a week, maybe not even a whole week if he gets voted out 4th, which is the only option.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh well. And Cliff at least also recognizes that not just was this a ridiculous statement in the house meeting, but it's also just a really brutal way to welcome someone back into the game and say, hey, welcome back. We're not going to talk to you, though.
Yeah.
Bye.
It's ridiculous, if we haven't made that clear.
Yeah. And he's working pretty hard with Ovie to kind of hint at, like, I want you back in the game, but also do some good work with David, kind of like, in case David comes back in instead of you, I'd like him on my side as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Ovie is also going to talk to Nicole, and Nicole fills Ovie in that she feels like some people were blowing smoke a little bit there with Ovie, including Jack and Tommy.
Yes.
That she feels like these people were not really on your side. She's right about Jack, kind of wrong about Tommy. And Ovie will talk to the cameras saying he feels betrayed by Jack, still not sure about the Tommy situation yet.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because while I do think that Tommy would have rathered have Ovie stay in the game, I don't know. This whole day of feeds made me feel less confident in Tommy, just in that I think a lot of people are on to him more than should be at this stage in the game for him. And even if Nicole is not right here, the fact that she suspects that he could be someone that Ovie can't trust is not good for him. And so he's done something. And just watching some of the ways that he was communicating, especially with Ovie, he doesn't come across nearly as genuine as people like Nicole and Cliff do. And I think that's because he knows he's got all of this information and secrets in his head that he's been lying about, and he's sort of aware that he could get caught. Whereas Nicole and Cliff were a little bit more upfront with Ovie before he left about it may not look good for you.
Right. I will say, I'm not on that same page personally. I think that we go through this every season. We did with Tyler. People said the exact same thing about Tyler week 2, week 3, because people were talking about Tyler, and it was like, the jig is up. People know about Tyler now. And we said the same thing in Big Brother Canada 7. Oh, the jig is up. People know about Anthony and Dane now. And I feel like because we look at somebody as the front runner, this is exactly what I said a year ago. That means that we are a lot more critical of the tiny things that come up about them. I am definitely not ready to say that this means anything negative for Tommy in any way.
And to be clear, I do want to preface this by saying that it's because I'm expected so much of him that I'm going to notice anything that could be a detriment. Whereas with someone like Cliff, who I think went in and people expected, oh, he's the older guy, maybe he won't do as well. And the people in that older underdog position tend to just kind of hang on for dear life, whereas Cliff seems to be making a lot more actively positive moves. So my bias is going to say, oh, he's doing amazing compared to the level I set him at. Whereas with Tommy, it's the smaller things. Like, I think his overall gameplay, fine. I don't think he's really in a lot of danger. But when I notice little things like, for example, at one point he's in a conversation with Christy, where Christy is initially explaining the idea before the house meeting about the new rule that they're not going to talk game with the campers. And then he goes into another room like 30 minutes later where Christy's explaining this again to some different people, and he comes in and acts like he hasn't already heard it. And Christy sort of says like, oh yeah, you remember that thing that I already just told you about? And you can see in Tommy's eyes, he's like, shh, no, I'm trying to pretend like I didn't already hear this. And it's little things like that he can get caught up in if he continues to try and, like, you can just be honest and come in and say, oh yeah, remember I already heard that. But he's just, there are certain things he's trying to hide the information that he already has. And while that's not hurting him yet, I do think, Nicole and Cliff said multiple times that maybe Ovie can't trust him, or hinted at it at least. And for all I know, that's just because they don't want him to trust him. They want to put a split there, and there's actually no reason why Ovie can't. So it's not really Tommy's fault, but that's the only thing that I could see if Cliff and Nicole continue with that sort of mindset. By the end of the evening, Ovie did seem more down on Tommy than he was at the beginning.
Yes, and so I guess like my response to that would be that the reason that level of scrutiny is on Tommy is because he is still the person in the majority that they want to work with the most. And so if like the reason Tommy has those relationships are if he needs them, right? These people, even Cliff, even Nicole, unfortunately, Ovie is already been voted out. These people are there as backup for Tommy if he needs numbers to make a move, and if he needs numbers to make a move, this is not a level of like I don't trust Tommy. That if Tommy went to them and said I need you guys to help me take out Jack, take out whoever, they're still going to work with him because they still like him the most, and he will be spilling whatever it is that he's spilling to them. If he doesn't need them, then this is completely, it doesn't go anywhere. And so, honestly, I feel even better about this sort of negative scrutiny about Tommy than I did about some of the stuff about Tyler last season, where I did feel like Tyler was a little overextended at times in the early weeks of season 20. I really don't see that with Tommy here. I know that, again, every time the front runner has their name mentioned, people are like, oh, the jig is up, they're done. I have to continue to be that person that says I really don't think so. This
Sure.
is not
And
that level
every
of
season
thing.
this happens. People definitely knew that Derek was playing well. It wasn't like he hid
Yes,
that
it's
the
same.
entire game.
People said the exact same thing about Derek. I remember
So, right.
Nicole talking about this was like week 3 when they were both co-HOHs. Nicole went to Hayden. She was like, I think he's playing the whole house. He's super manipulative. People were like, oh, they know about Derek. And then of course Nicole goes on to be Nicole during that season at least. So yeah.
And it's a lot of self-justification. Before everyone screams at me and says, oh, I'm being harder on certain people than others. Yes, I am, because those are the people I bought stock in, and so I'm trying to figure out my stock watch game and everything on top of that. I have
Who
a
did you
lot
buy
of
stock in?
we don't need to talk about it, but a lot of people that I like. But like, for example, Holly, who I also bought stock in because I thought she was positioned well. I saw, because of that, I was noticing more negative things that she was doing game wise because I'm looking at her as opposed to everyone with the same weight. So it depends. You know that Jack is going to make mistakes, so you fault him less, or
Yeah,
eh,
that's
yeah.
absolutely what it is. Even just looking at this particular situation, people are like, "Oh, look how well look how well Nicole and Cliff are doing with Ovie." But it's like Ovie is an evicted house guest. He's got a 1 in 4 chance of coming back, and they're still on the outs from the major alliance. Like, I love them both. Don't get me wrong. I want them to do well. I do. But Tommy is still like far and away in a considerably better position than both of them, and that might change for Nicole, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because Jack and Jackson, they do like Nicole, and they don't like Kat.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like Nicole has potential, and I'm there for it.
The coldest of takes ever is that Nicole has majorly surprised me, and I'm very, very happy with that. From her day one person to now, I think I'm seeing so much more in her that I really like.
Yes, and again, like Cliff was talking just this morning about how, and I've said this before, like Cliff has always been like, yeah, Tommy is somebody that can be really good at this game and potentially really dangerous down the line. And I compared them the other day to Derek and Donnie. That Cliff is essentially the guy who knows the game really well and sort of sees that Tommy is probably one of the front runners, just can't really do anything about it right now, and also doesn't really have an incentive to do anything about it right now. But again, like, this is just, it's how it works. Nobody in the history of the game ever goes in and nobody ever sees them as a threat when they're the front runner. People see the front runner. The difference is that they never do anything about it. That's when people start to say, I'm coming for Tommy, I want to nominate him next to somebody that will not stay next to him, or somebody that will stay next to him. That's when you start to go, oh, okay, things are now starting to turn. Now there are some people that are talking about really actually targeting him. That's actual currency in the game.
Yeah, and I think that's just my dream hope, is that, not that I don't like Tommy, I really really do, but I like to see people also try to do what benefits them the most in the game. And it would benefit people like Nicole and Cliff and some of the other people who are kind of, out of this big alliance to want to sow seeds of dissension between Tommy and other people, keep him on their side, get some of the other people out, and then turn on him. And for that to happen, they would need whoever comes back in the game, like Ovie or David, to be more with them than they are with Tommy. And so seeing little bits of seeds of work of that now is promising, but really, really long game. There are still 16 people in the house, so you can't count on anything yet.
Yes. And of course, there's not a single person in that house that hasn't been talked about as a target, except for probably Tommy and maybe Christy, honestly, which is annoying, especially because of how tight their bond is. And I think that just further goes to show how much they are out in front. But so that's what we got from Ovie there and Nicole. Nick and Jack had a conversation. Nick was trying to be like, look, if I seemed not super happy about you winning HOH, had nothing to do with you. It's just because I was so upset that I went out so early. I was so embarrassed. I did not have anything to do with you, Jack. I promise. I was definitely not trying to hope that you did not win HOH so we could take you out. That's definitely not what I was thinking. I promise.
Yeah, they're mad about this twist. It's a full effing house, and it's good that they had the last week to form all these bonds with the 8 so they can separate everyone out. And it's just Nick is so angry this entire evening. First about the competition, and then about the Bella stuff.
Yep.
And it's not looking good for him. Actually, you know what? I'm taking that back. I'm changing my mind right now. Great. Be angry, because no one will want to vote you out and have you be even more mad at them.
Exactly.
Personally.
That's why they're not.
Keep playing this up. Great job, Nick. Keep going. I'm sure it's strategy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole side storyline here about how, like, pretty soon after the feeds come back, Nick is going to be, like, once again flirting with Sis, and because Sis is talking about like, oh, her relationship with Jack, and how, sometimes she just feels like she can't be herself around him, and he's like, that's basically like code to be like, like, oh, so you're not that into him, like, so you can be yourself around me, like, it's, so on and so forth, and this is weird and annoying, and so that is also going to contribute toward the later spat with Bella, and how he's gonna complain about Bella and how she's I'm not allowed to flirt with people, not allowed to whatever, and I've got to sleep in the same bed as her, but we're not allowed to actually be a showman's. It's not my fault.
This house is full of beautiful women. What does she expect me to do? What does she expect? Yeah, look, I make your props to you for being able to listen to any of the conversations that Nick has with the other girls when he's just talking with them, because if I see a camera and you usually have like a whole table of people, and then there's like Nick sitting this way straddling the bench, and then Sis sitting this way straddling the bench, and they're just sort of in their own world talking.
Real close to each other.
Because I know there's not going to be any substance, and I'll probably hear about the whole conversation later when he's ranting to someone about it. So I don't need to listen to it twice.
It's also hard to hear. I will say, this cast, and it's going to continue because there's going to be 16 people in the house until week 4, but this cast is so blatant. Like, they talk game with each other in a room full of people. They just start whispering, like if it would be like if the chat, Mary, was in on this call with us, and I started just being like, okay, so Mary, what I'm thinking about is that see pumpkin pie in the chat. We need to get them out ASAP. Next week, we're gonna backdoor pumpkin pie. We're gonna put Pamela and Riff Raff up on the block as pawns, and it's gonna be great. Hopefully, they didn't hear any of this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. There were sometimes also the feeds. Stop doing this. Stop entering a conversation right at, yeah, he was so annoying. Who are we talking about? I don't know. I'm trying to write down, like, is it Sam? Is it Nick? Who are they talking about here? But they always cut right after we miss whatever name they're saying. And I rewound like 4 times trying to hear it, and it never happened. And it was frustrating. But yeah, I mean, Holly especially, she'll walk into a room where there's a bunch of people talking, and she'll just look at someone and be like, yeah, so this is what he just told me over there. And they're having this conversation right in the middle of the kitchen with everyone around them. But, I can't hear them, so I'm assuming no one else can.
Yes. So people were like, no, not pumpkin. You're going on the block button, says Rob. Crap. Nick was talking to Jack. Sure. And he reveals to Jack that Chemi was planning on putting him on the block with Jackson, and Sis would have been the replacement. He rats Chemi out. He had been having these conversations with Chemi. He would have thrown the HOH to Chemi so she could do that, but now he is using that knowledge to make sure, I imagine, that Jack doesn't make the move against him, because he's got, look, you've got bigger fish to fry. Chemi was coming for you. This was her detailed plan. And of course, Jack is not pleased to hear that Chemi was going to do that.
I was talking to her. I was being so nice to her all week, and she never even talked to me. She's going on the block.
Unbelievable. I can't believe she would do this to me. And Sis.
Yeah, because they were so close.
How dare he? Holly and Kat are going to talk about... Holly's a little bit concerned... that she's this Chemi stuff is getting around, and she is a little bit concerned that she's going to be seen as too close to the guys. She heard that Sis was going to be potentially put up on the block because of her association with Jack, and she's worried that she might have been an option as well, being so close to Jackson. And Kat says, no, they're just jealous because we're pretty.
Oh yeah. So earlier in the day, when I had plenty of time and was taking lots of notes, Sis and Holly were doing makeup and having a makeup show, and I tried to pick up tips, but apparently my eye colors don't fit their palette, so I didn't get much information there that was beneficial.
Ouch.
Right. But flash to, 7 hours later than that, yes, apparently Chemi is terrible because she only talks to them about how beautiful they are. Ugh. And she's just petty and jealous because they're pretty. And Kat says, I hate it when girls are ruthless and toxic for no reason.
Yeah.
So this may have been the most ironic conversation I'd saw all night.
I mean, look.
You two haven't done anything except sit here and look cute.
I was a big Chemi fan. I was. But hearing this, she's
it's despicable.
Always calling them pretty.
I know. All she does is come in and talk about how pretty they are. And,
we need to completely rethink how we view the players in the house here, because that is just disgusting.
I don't know. I mean, I can't like Chemi anymore because she's toxic. How toxic to do that? She's so ruthless for no reason, talking about these girls in a positive way, and the right thing to do is to stand there and talk badly about her.
God, man.
Also, I mean, this conversation is Kat, Holly, and Sis, and 2 seconds later, them minus Kat are just going to be talking about how much they hate Kat. So that's not toxic or ruthless at all.
Look, Mary, I think the problem is that us pretty people, we're constantly discriminated. I completely can relate. People are always calling me pretty, and I'm just like, wow. I can't believe them. They're so mean. They're so cruel.
I know. They really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone take note, chat. Whenever you say how attractive Taran is, that, we notice. Mm-hmm. And you're on notice.
Yeah. There's somebody earlier in the chat said, Taran looks tired. And I was like, thank you, finally.
A real
Finally,
person.
Somebody is not complimenting me and being so cruel.
They're being so cruel to someone. That's almost Good Morning level of cruelness. They called me pretty. All right. Anyway, enough sarcasm.
Yeah. Such a ridiculous. They're so mad at her for calling them pretty. She makes it all about looks. Kat also mentions this conversation because Holly was like, I'm not sure if I can trust Nick and Bella. Kat says, I don't trust him. I'm putting Bella up on the block.
Yeah.
So Kat's still after Bella.
Yeah, which is definitely not fueled by any guy-related behavior at all, probably.
Yeah.
So, that's cool.
You look pretty is the new Good Morning.
Yeah. And Sis notes that if they get Chemi and Jess out in the next 2 weeks, then it's just Nick, herself, and Christy who will be in the Wackadoodle contest. So
there you go.
You know, a lot of talk about who may have the power, and I'm constantly just trying to remember who knows the truth and who doesn't know the truth that Ovie had the power.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are telling him he should pretend like he does have it. I don't know how that would help.
Yeah, Cliff was saying you should act like you do have it. It will be beneficial to you. It's sad to me that his closest allies, Ovie, I'm saying, are the ones that are still clueless about.
Yeah. Well, and so Ovie talks to the camera a couple times tonight, and he does say at one point, you know, I don't owe anything to anyone except for Cliff and Nicole. I need to play smarter than I did before. I can't give my loyalty out as easily as I did before. I feel most betrayed by Jack and Tommy, but I can't let them know that. So I do think some of that could be stemming from the fact that, well, I don't know if he doesn't know it yet, but that his information about the power did get spread to a lot of people. And if he finds that out, I think, you know, it's going to be super easy to trace back who did it.
So then we get to house meeting part 2. Because after the first house meeting, they were like, do you think that went okay? What do you think? Did we suggest too strongly? Do people really agree with that? Or maybe we should, you know what? Maybe we should talk about this a little bit more. Hey guys, can we just get like a show of hands? You know, I just feel like maybe that didn't go as well as I wanted to. I just want to make sure that everyone is definitely on board with what I said before. I'm afraid I came off a little too strong. So what I'd like to do is force everyone to publicly agree with me right now to make myself feel better about the fact that I feel like I might have come on too strong before.
And they even say, I think it was Tommy who said, like, yeah, let's all raise our hands, because then we'll be accountable and we'll know this is like a bond who raised their hand. Yikes, guys, stop forcing this. I mean, like the best thing to do, because we all know that like when you feel pressured because one person is just sort of like dictating a rule and asking everyone in front of a group of people, do you all agree? The best way to break that down and make sure that they're all still on the same page is to just do the exact same thing again.
Yes. This is
except this time Ovie and David aren't there.
Yeah.
Which I guess helps.
This is like there's a show that I really enjoyed called Coupling, and one of the episodes at the start, there's a guy that he calls a woman to ask her out, and he leaves a voicemail, and what happens is. So actually, I got that wrong. This is a different. He calls her and then he actually doesn't say anything, which is actually very funny. But basically, you get the premise. Somebody like calls and leaves a voicemail, and they're like, "Hey, you know, I was thinking about going and doing something," and then you know they hang up, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I feel like I did something wrong. I need to." And then they call and they leave another voicemail, and they're like, "Oh, about that previous voicemail, I'm really sorry that I might have come off too strong. I feel like maybe you don't have to come with me on this thing. It's just that, you know, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that maybe it was something that you would want to do." And then so of course they hang up and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, did I just imply that?" Oh, wait, hold on. And they call again.
This is Gilmore Girls that you're talking about. I mean, this happened in Gilmore Girls, if that's what you're referring to.
It happens in various shows. It also is a thing that often happens in coupling with a certain character, but not with voicemails. So.
All right. Anyway.
I
same
love
thing.
your eye. You have great eyes. Not that like I'm a weird, creepy eye collector. Like I wouldn't collect eyes in buckets or anything. Like
Right,
now I'm sounding really bad. Like that's what this is. Like it's Jack is like, oh, so I called this house meeting, and I feel like nobody should talk to the camp comeback. But I'm not like telling people. It's just a suggestion that you don't need to do. I'm just trying to suggest it. Oh crap! Okay, guys, I just want to make sure that everyone agrees to my suggestion. And if you don't agree, that's perfectly fine. Just don't raise your hand in a group of people that are raising their hand. I think it's totally fine. Everything's gonna work out. Just make sure you raise your hand, and then it will be all good. And then tomorrow or today we'll probably get another house meeting. Like I just want to make sure. I just want to raise of hands that everyone feels like that previous house meeting was fair and good, and that you felt comfortable. I want you to make sure. Raise your hand if you did not feel comfortable not raising your hand in the previous house meeting. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. It was great. There were a couple other funny things that happened in this house meeting. They all assume that David got to watch some of the game that was happening before coming in because he knows too much. He knows that we say things like manifesting, and he knows that Tommy is jumping around all the time because he's a dancer, and you can't put those two things together. And even at some point, Sam says, "Oh no, it's because I went up to David and I told him that we talk about the manifesting thing a lot." No, can't be that. Can't because you told him. He just knew. He must have watched the feeds.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about David. I mean, again, he's basically the person that comes in week 2 and hasn't been there before. Like this is a completely new person to them, and like many of the people that come in late, there's rampant speculation about various things, and it's all unfortunately very negative speculation here that this guy he's dangerous, he's a player, he's gonna do things to the women, like it's weird and gross.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's the cancer in the house, and it's really not good. And then like Mickey Jackson tries to. Are we going with Mickey or Jackson?
I'm going with Jackson. I don't care what Jack says, because you know what? I guarantee you what happened was Jackson went in. He's like, I have such a unique name, because that's what he said preseason. And then Jack came in, and Jack was like, yo, bro, our names are too similar. You got to change. And Jackson was like, okay, fine, I can go by Mickey. And the show is respecting Jack's wishes. I do not respect Jack's wishes. I'm calling him Jackson.
Yeah. The announcer finally called Annalise Sis, which is just also a very confusing nickname.
Yeah, I don't love Sis, but I also that's like mostly what they like. They call Jackson and Mickey. Right. They mostly call Sis. So yeah, I go by Sis.
But yeah, so Jackson's trying to kind of justify, I guess, the cruelty that he plans on enacting upon David. You can tell that this is sort of like, okay, I need to make sure we're all on the same page, that when I'm trashing David, it's because it's a game. That's why. And he really tells them all, like, David, he's going to come in and he's going to try and tear things apart. We need to leave our emotions at the door, because they are guaranteed in the house for 3 more weeks, and they can be a human wrecking ball if they want to be. They've got nothing to lose, which kind of true, but also not a reason to talk so negatively about David and put all of these ideas on him as a person before anything has even happened. Like, apparently he, smiled at one of the girls or talked to them, and so that's terrible.
Wait, he did what?
I know. It's just it's backwards.
Next
in
thing
this
you know,
house.
you're about to tell me that he called somebody pretty, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and that means that he's
trying to make fun of them secretly while also trying to hit on them secretly.
Sure. I mean, look, I don't even really want to get into it, but Jackson and Holly in particular, and also Kat and Jack to some extent, were really saying some really, really not great things about what they think David is going to do in the house, particularly with the women. And so, yeah, let's stop this as soon as possible, please.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that when people get to know him a little better, this will hopefully slow down. I think that it's unfortunately been a bit of a trend, but the trend in the house has been that when the feeds came on, it was the worst, and then as they got to know people better, it slowed down a little bit. I'm hoping that the same thing will happen here, but come on, this is not good, guys. Don't be saying these things, and what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, for a group of people who just talk so much about how grateful they are and how wonderful and stuff, do they not? I think they really must just forget that the feeds are a thing or something.
I just want somebody to I almost wish that David knew he wasn't going to come back, so that he could just sit down and have a conversation with them without the game being involved, to just be like, hey guys, look, I feel like that we should talk and that you should learn some things.
So we need a summit.
We need a house meeting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Also, in this second house meeting, when they're talking about the rules again, they finally mention that. Oh, and also the next two people who get out of the house will have the same treatment, and there is audibly less enthusiasm about that. Just everyone's like, oh yeah, yes. And then Jack and Jackson kind of joke that they're like, oh, but the fourth person will probably talk game with, right? Because they know that's the only chance they could have at getting out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's going on there. Ovie is going to talk with Tommy after the second house meeting. They talk about the vote. Tommy says he doesn't think it'll stick, that of course they're going to end up talking to people, but he does say it's probably a good idea to lie low. Ovie, that you probably shouldn't be gaming a ton, because you want to be able to come in with as clean a slate as possible. Tommy admits that he did lead Ovie on a little bit, that he unfortunately he did want to make something happen, but he says, look, I'm sorry, I felt like I couldn't stick my neck out too far for it. It was largely a house decision. Nobody in particular was to blame. Basically being very, very honest about, as much as he could be, about what happened, while still covering his alliance.
And this is something that is no question why people like Derek do better than people like Paul, who can't admit their lies.
If Paul was talking to Ovie, he'd be like, I don't even know what happened. What? No.
I campaigned. I must have accidentally voted for the wrong person.
Crap.
Yeah, I mean, oh shoot, what happened? You and me, we're the only two in this house who are telling the truth. Everyone else is a liar. But where you see people like Derek. Sorry, I just watched Big Brother 16 again. This is why I keep bringing this up. You see him admit when he knows he could get caught in having an alliance, or oh yes, there was a bomb squad. Oh yeah, I'm going to tell my other side people over here, Victoria, whoever, some things that they could probably. And I mean, Ovie's being a little bit obvious in the way that he's kind of trapping Tommy to, of oh, so you're not going to talk game with me, right? Because other people sort of have already said that they might, and Tommy's like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure. It's not because I don't want to. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit and stuff. You can tell Tommy's like, oh shoot, okay, I don't want to be the only one who's not going to talk game with him if everyone else is. And I love when Ovie says, you might want to sit down for this question, and then asks him if he was giving him the runaround. But yeah, it was great. I'm very impressed with Tommy that he had the foresight to admit to that and say, yeah, I was a little bit. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tightrope to walk, and it's one that we haven't really seen before on the show, because evicted house guests are not usually living with the rest of the cast, because, Tommy obviously wants to maintain as positive a relationship with Ovie as possible, but again, Ovie is evicted, and he's only got a 1 in 4 shot of coming back, and so he doesn't want to like really go out of his way and make himself a target to the people that unfortunately matter a lot more, who have power in the house. Like Tommy's main priority is obviously his main game, which is the 8, Christy, Jack, Nick, all of these people that he's working with. He can't sketch them out by working too hard to to make sure that Ovie likes him when Ovie's not even in the game. So it's an interesting balance to have to watch somebody like Tommy make, and I do think he did a pretty good job here of being as open as possible while also still hiding, kind of like leaving apart the things that could incriminate him, and also still, giving a token enough sort of effort to be like, yeah, it's probably a good idea to go along with what the rest of the house said, but also I am here for you, so that like even if Ovie ratted him out, that he would have enough sort of plausible deniability to be like, look, I tried to tell him that it was a good idea, but what can you do? So it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see more of how people interact with these evicted house guests. Obviously, when you're already on the outs like Nicole and Cliff, it's very easy to just do whatever you want because you're already on the outs. But for the people that have something to lose, how they interact with these evicted house guests will be very interesting.
Yeah, because Ovie talks with Cliff, and then he talks with Nicole, and then he talks with Tommy later. And so he already has all the information from Cliff and Nicole. And so when he asks Tommy something like, is there anyone I need to be watching out for? Was there anyone who was actively trying to, target me or anything? And Tommy says, no, everyone's obsessed with you, obviously. Obviously. It's comes, I think there's going to be a part in Ovie's head that says, well, I've already been told by both Nicole and Chris that Jack definitely is someone I need to watch out for. I agree with what you're saying about the plausible deniability that Tommy has. And so I do think it's still the best move for him to be keeping on with, yeah, he can't rat everything out as much because,
exactly.
And I guess the question is more going to be, is there a way that either using Tommy or not using Tommy, people who are not in the 8 can ever take it down to even the playing field at all?
Not while Camp Comeback is in play, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's, obviously it gets him points with Ovie if he throws Jack under the bus. But it also, it's a hugely unnecessary risk because it could completely screw his entire game if that got out. So it's totally not worth the risk. And that's, again, it's the dilemma that comes with evicted house guests still being in the house. So we'll hopefully see a little bit more of that as time goes on. There's going to be one more person evicted. I do think this would have been a better and more interesting twist had we not started the season with such a big majority alliance. That if this twist existed for Big Brother 20, I think it would have been a lot more interesting, especially given all of the secrets and stuff that were happening there. I feel like it's maybe not as interesting in this particular setup, but what are you gonna do? That's how it plays out. They're just the twists are always gonna flop a little bit. But I'm happy to see Ovie still be in the house, and I'm very happy to finally see David. Even though I'm not happy about how he's been treated thus far. And
I mean, at the very least, it allows them to, like everyone is saying, they've got nothing to lose, really. And so it does allow them to, spill any information they want, or to try and, I guess, set up the people in the house that they like more than others, even if they're not going to make it back in themselves.
Yes, Danny in the chat says, "What if Jack's rules still apply if he's voted out next week?" That's the goal.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jack's rules are not going to apply to himself.
It would be so beautiful if Jack was evicted next week, and he. Oh, but you know what? It won't matter. He's not going to be. Next week.
I think it'll be immediate. Yeah. They'll probably immediately do the competition after the 4th person. So the 4th person probably won't need to stay there.
Twist flopping.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So Holly, like I said, Nick and Bella, they have a fight about sleeping together. They eventually do agree they're going to sleep in the same bed. Holly and Kat more attention about the Jackson love triangle. They send Kat to spy on David to like get some information from him. Like go flirt with David. She goes and flirts with David and tries to get in for. Oh, and she does it in, of course, her like very cat-like way, where she's like. So how are you feeling? How are you liking people? I mean, do you feel like you're able to get a good read on people? I mean, I'm sure you've been watching the live feeds, right? So you probably know us really well. And he's like, yeah, no.
That was actually the joke I had written down that I said the cat was funny about, was when they're in the HOH room for the second house meeting and they're talking about how David was clearly watching the live feeds. Kat says, yeah, I mean, he even came into a room with me and said, are you conspiring against me, bitches? And everyone's like, what? OMG, that confirms it. And she's like, no, I was joking, guys. That didn't happen. That was a joke. That was pretty good. I appreciate that from her.
So she doesn't get any useful information because there's no useful information to gather from him. And also, Kat is not the person that would figure it out.
No, but they send Kat to go flirt with him, and then they sit there and talk about, oh gosh, David, he's flirting with all the girls. It's fine.
Hopefully this will make Chemi mad. What?
I'm not even gonna dig into that. So yeah. David is he does talk with Ovie some and basically say, I could tell from that house meeting, I don't buy the whole kumbaya thing. I could tell that there were certain people who were agreeing because they actually wanted this rule to be in place, and there were the rest of them, they don't have the opportunity to actually say no. What are they going to do? Speak aloud and then do that. So I think he is a pretty observant person. Hopefully he can gain some useful information at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of sad that no one has really come in and really tried to take David under their wing yet. I mean, it's been one day, so what are you gonna do?
I think it'll happen. I mean, he'll start to find whatever group that he's gonna fit in with the most, and and he'll fit in, and then those people will be hoping that he comes back, I'm sure.
RHAP in the chat. I seem exasperated. I am a little bit. I'm mostly exhausted because I had 2 more people to watch in the house than I thought I was going to. That's mostly what it is.
Yeah, again.
It's my 4th of July, too. I want to be with Frail Daddy and the others in the parade.
He's not adjusting the Gryffindor behind you?
No, sorry. I really need to get a Ravenclaw one of these. Something that's more accurate. But, no. He's probably off juggling and riding a unicycle somewhere.
Yes, and also, as I mentioned, David apparently made some sort of joke. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was on the feeds or not. And maybe somebody will be able to figure it out, but I'm not sure anybody knows yet. Some kind of joke about Jackson that Jackson felt was mean-spirited, and Jackson did not care for it.
A mean-spirited joke? Oh my gosh.
I know. I mean,
in this house?
I'm pretty sure that's a good thing, though, right? At least he didn't call him pretty.
Yeah. Whew. That would have been bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tiny little bit of talk about the Girls Alliance stuff. Little bit of breaking down who they think is on their side and who they don't, and it's all kind of irrelevant because they're mostly wrong about a lot of that.
Yeah.
So one other thing about Nicole that I thought was good was about 3 times in the night she had very, very personal conversations with people. And I think she does a really good job of sort of getting people to open up to her and bond with her in that way. They're not super game talk, but very talking about their hang-ups, I think is the word she kept using. So that's, nothing bonds people like crying. Any drunk girl at a bar will tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Rob made a joke in the chat. That one's just for the live audience. Sorry, listeners. You should join us live in the future for Rob's chat jokes. So that's about what we have for you. Unfortunately, we're probably, this week looking very much like last week. It's looking like Chemi is going to be the main target for a while here, and we're just going to have to be waiting an entire week to hope that Chemi is not eventually evicted. I personally would rather lose Jess first. I feel like Jess is just not quite at Chemi's level. She is still just a little bit in the clouds, I think. And I feel like Chemi has more potential. She has a little more connection to some people that could actually make some moves, especially this Bella, Nick, and Sam group. I do feel like could be the sort of the downfall of Grateful. So I'm really hoping Chemi sticks around, but it's not looking good.
No, at least she's aware that she's going on the block.
She is.
So,
yes.
And at least, at the very least, it looks like they're not planning on backdooring her. So, got pretty good odds. There was a weird conversation where Sam said something like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you don't put her up because she's going to be able to plan veto anyway. And then there was like 5 minutes of crickets where everyone was trying to figure out what in the world he was talking about. I don't think he knew what he was talking about either.
Yeah.
So, didn't go anywhere.
Honestly, either way, if Chemi goes home or if Jess goes home, there's like a real good shot that the other one's just going to go the next week. So it's not even that. I'm not even that hopeful.
Yeah. Not great. And we will all... It's really easy right now to like Ovie and David. And it's going to be harder when more people join the four.
Yeah. All right, so that was what we have for you today. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 21 live feeds. We got some cliff notes already, so
nice.
We'll have some fun tomorrow. And then Sunday will be the next episode. So on Sunday night, I will be live with Rob to recap the Sunday episode of Big Brother 21. And then, of course, Monday we'll be back with the next roundtable. So that's what we got. Thank you for joining us. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. You can find me on Instagram, Taran_Armstrong. I never posted that cat picture yesterday, but it's mostly because I saw that Instagram was supposedly down, and I was like, oh, guess I can't post a cat picture. But then it came back up probably at some point, and then I still didn't do it because I was busy streaming on Twitch.
I assume by a cat picture you mean Catherine from this season.
Yeah, what did you think it was?
That's what I thought it was. I'm glad. Just confirmed.
Yeah, it was it was a side by side of Kat and my face from the podcast with Brent. That's what I was going to post.
Nice.
Yeah. Mary, where can people find you?
You can follow me at Frail Mary everywhere. So if you want to see pictures of me and no cats of any kind, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a no from me.
Yep. So that's on Instagram and for my tweets on Twitter.
Just don't call her pretty, guys.
No, I mean, please don't. Like, it really hurts.
Yeah.
I prefer. I can't even think of a word. Don't vote on my Instagram either, please. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yes.
I'll see you
Happy
next
4th
time.
of July.